When you think of a legendary doomed ocean liner, one name springs to mind: Titanic. It's a word that means disaster. What if I told you the Titanic had a sister ship that was bigger, safer, and had even worse luck? A ship built for unbelievable luxury that never carried a single paying passenger. This is the story of the HMHS Britannic, a ship history mostly forgot, and of the one woman whose fate was bizarrely tied to both of these doomed giants. A woman who, after surviving the Titanic, found herself on another sinking liner, this time being pulled straight toward its massive spinning propellers. In the early 1900s, the White Star Line was locked in a battle for the profitable transatlantic route. Their answer was a trio of the biggest, most luxurious ships the world had ever seen, the Olympic class. The first two were the RMS Olympic and the infamous RMS Titanic. The third, whose keel was laid in Belfast in 1911, was meant to be their masterpiece. The Britannic. She was designed to be the undisputed queen of the seas, with plans for a massive player organ on the grand staircase and even more lavish first-class suites than her sisters. But on April 15, 1912, the world stopped. The sinking of the Titanic was a trauma that changed shipbuilding forever, and from it, the Britannic was reborn. Still under construction, she became a ship where her sisters' fatal mistakes were turned into life-saving upgrades. Her beam was widened to fit an expanded double hull along the engine and boiler rooms. Key watertight bulkheads were raised several decks higher, meant to let her stay afloat even with 6 forward compartments flooded, far more than the Titanic could survive. And most visibly, she was fitted with enormous gantry davits, crane-like arms that could launch entire stacks of lifeboats even if the ship was listing badly. When she launched on February 26, 1914, the Britannic was the largest British liner in the world and one of the safest ever built. But this marvel would never welcome a paying customer. Before her luxury fittings were even finished, a different storm was gathering. In August 1914, the world went to war, and the Britannic's fate changed forever. In 1915, with her opulent furnishings still in storage, the Britannic was requisitioned by the British Admiralty. Her black hull was repainted white, a green stripe running bow to stern, broken by giant red crosses. Her name was now HMHS Britannic, His Majesty's Hospital Ship. First-class dining rooms became operating theaters. Cabins became wards for as many as 3,300 wounded. Under Captain Charles Bartlett, a respected White Star officer, she completed 5 successful voyages, carrying thousands of soldiers home from the disastrous Gallipoli campaign. For a while it seemed she'd found a noble purpose, but her family's luck was only waiting for the right moment. On board for these voyages was a woman whose story is almost harder to believe than the ship's. Her name was Violet Jessup, an ocean liner stewardess turned Red Cross nurse, and to call her a survivor undersells it considerably. Born in Argentina to Irish immigrants, Jessup had already survived a serious childhood bout of tuberculosis. She joined the White Star Line and in 1911 was working aboard the RMS Olympic when it collided with the warship HMS Hawk. The next year, friends talked her into taking a post on the line's new flagship for its maiden voyage, the RMS Titanic. Jessup was in her bunk when the ship hit the iceberg and was later ordered into Lifeboat 16, holding a baby that someone had thrust into her arms. She was rescued after 8 hours in the freezing dark. Most people would have given up the sea for good, not Violet Jessup. When the call went out for nurses on the Britannic, she signed up. Maybe it was duty, or maybe she figured lightning couldn't possibly strike 3 times. She was now on the 3rd and final Olympic-class sister, steaming into a war zone. On the morning of November 21, 1916, the HMHS Britannic was cutting through calm sunlit water in the Key Channel in the Aegean. Just after 8 a.m., a violent explosion rocked the 48,000-ton ship. It wasn't a torpedo. Most historians agree it was a single German naval mine. Nurses had opened many lower-deck portholes that morning to air out the wards. As the ship began to list, those open portholes dipped below the waterline, letting the sea in. Realizing this, Bartlett tried a desperate gamble: run for the nearby island of Key and beach her. 2 lifeboats were launched without his authorization, lifting the massive port-side propeller partly clear of the water, still spinning, still turning the sea beneath it into a churning vortex. Violet Jessup was in one of them. She watched the boat ahead of hers get torn apart. Knowing hers was next, she jumped. At 9:07 a.m., just 55 minutes after the blast, the HMHS Britannic was gone. The world's largest liner had sunk 3 times faster than her sister. Terrifying as it was, this wasn't the catastrophe the Titanic had been. It happened in daylight, in warm water, close to land. Fishermen from Kia raced out to help pull people from the sea. Violet Jessup, now nicknamed Miss Unsinkable, had survived her 3rd major disaster on an Olympic-class ship. She kept working at sea for years afterward. She remains the largest passenger ship lost in the First World War, and still, she's a footnote next to her sister. For almost 60 years, the Britannic lay forgotten. Then, in 1975, Jacques Cousteau located the wreck, resting on its side in about 400 feet of water. Unlike the Titanic, slowly dissolving in the deep, cold Atlantic, the Britannic sits in shallower, kinder Aegean waters, and it shows. Divers can still make out the gantry davits, the ship's telegraphs, even the red crosses on her hull. She's one of the largest intact passenger wrecks in the world. A ship that never got to live the life she was built for, holding her story quietly in the dark. The story of the Britannic is a reminder that history is full of incredible tales just beneath the surface. If you find these forgotten stories as fascinating as we do, subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell so you never miss one.